Welcome to the Nutritional Medicine Update. I'm Jim Machino. Thanks for tuning in. The research that I'm citing today was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, January 2016. The title of the paper was "Are Strict Vegetarians Protected Against Prostate Cancer?" So this was part of the Adventist Health 2 study, a very large study that's been underway for many years now, following over 26,000 men. And during the study period, 1,079 of these men developed prostate cancer. And the main finding of the study was that vegan men had a 35% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to non-vegans. This was especially true in Caucasians, with a similar trend in black men, although the correlation was a little less strong. And it's not surprising that we'd see these findings because many plant foods contain nutrients that have been shown to inhibit prostate cancer development. As an example, the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, bok choy, they contain these two unique molecules that you don't find anywhere else in nature called the indole 3-carbinol and sulforaphanes, which we've seen that men that consume these vegetables on a regular basis have a lower incidence of prostate cancer, lower lifetime prevalence of developing prostate cancer. And some of these nutrients have been shown to induce programmed cell death or apoptosis of cancer cells, including prostate cancer cells of different prostate cancer types. Also, tomatoes, of course, contain lycopene, and when you consume lycopene, it accumulates in the prostate gland and in the seminal fluids. And it has these effects on prostate cells that have been shown to increase cellular differentiation, which makes cells less likely to undergo malignant transformation. And also, lycopene has been shown to help induce programmed cell death of emerging cancer cells itself. So we'll see that in a moment. And soybeans and soy products contain these unique isoflavones, genistein and diadzine, and also the protease inhibitor known as the Bowman-Burke protease inhibitor. And together, these protective nutrients have been shown to inhibit the buildup of dihydrotestosterone within the prostate gland. When DHT builds up in the prostate gland, the cells divide at a faster rate. And when that happens, cells make more genetic mistakes that can lead to cancer. So keeping the DHT level low in the prostate cell is linked to decreased prostate cancer risk. And also, these nutrients induce apoptosis, programmed cell death of certain prostate cancer cells. And they also block androgen and estrogen receptors, which is also an important part of not overstimulating the prostate gland so that the cells don't divide too quickly and don't create genetic mistakes as easily. Also, peas and beans contain different lignans and protease inhibitors that have been shown to have very significant anti-cancer properties against a lot of cancers, including reproductive cancers like prostate cancer. And in green tea, you have these unique polyphenolic compounds, particularly the catechins. And the catechin polyphenolic compounds, in terms of prostate cancer cells, has been shown to actually induce programmed cell death and sort of block other events related to metastasis. And as you'll see, that these green tea catechins have been used in a couple of human clinical studies in recent years. And pomegranate juice contains ellagic acid, which is a powerful anti-cancer nutrient, and we've seen studies in recent years also using pomegranate juice to help in the adjunctive management of prostate cancer. And ground flaxseed contains mammalian lignin precursors. So these are nutrients that don't get absorbed or digested in the small intestine, but once they get into the large intestine, the gut microflora can metabolize them into these two unique compounds, enterolactone and enterodiol, which then get absorbed into the bloodstream. And on the prostate cells, they have anti-proliferative effects. They slow down the rate of cell division, and when you do that, cancer risk is decreased quite substantially. So there have been studies in recent years where they've taken these specific medicinal ingredients out of these plants and put them into supplements and given them to patients that have either localized prostate cancer or precancerous states, or men that have metastatic prostate cancer as well, to help as an adjunctive management intervention. And I'll talk about some of those results. But the first thing to note is that many studies show that men who consume these sort of plant-based foods on a regular basis their prostate cancer incidence is lower than men who are not using these sort of plant-based foods. But with respect to these specific nutrients, there have been studies, 6 studies now done to date, with men that have localized prostate cancer where they've given them lycopene supplements at a specific dosage. And it's been shown to encourage prostate cancer cells that in humans now to induce programmed cell death. The PSA either, you can see a slowing of the PSA, or the PSA starts to come down because the tumor mass is actually shrinking. So there's fewer cancer cells to be secreting the PSA. So that's been very impressive. Also, we've seen studies where they've taken genistein and diadzine isoflavones from soy and given them as a specific supplement, a targeted supplement, and we've seen the same thing. Either the PSA rise slows down tremendously, or in some cases the PSA starts going down. As you induce apoptosis of existing prostate cancer cells, there's fewer cancer cells to secrete PSA, and the PSA starts to drift in the opposite direction. And the same thing with these catechins from decaffeinated green tea. 2 really important studies. One in 2006 where they gave men that had precancerous lesions in their prostate gland a specific dosage of catechins, and the placebo group just got the placebo, double-blind trial. After 1 year, only 1% of the men that had the green tea catechin supplementation showed progression to full-blown prostate cancer. The men who got the placebo, a 30% percentage of those men developed prostate cancer, full-blown, within the same 12-month period. So these catechins were shown to exert some amazing effects. So in 2009, they did a study with men that already had localized prostate cancer, who were awaiting further medical intervention, gave them green tea catechins at a specific dosage, and they were able to show that it helped to stabilize the rise in the PSA, and it decreased the biomarkers, showing that it was making those cancer cells less likely to metastasize or to progress in a way that would be aggressive. So these are key things, because they can't really make drugs yet to do something like this. And then with pomegranate juice, they've used it in trials with men who have full-blown prostate cancer where the PSA is up in the hundreds, and the cancer's out of control, and they've tried everything and nothing's working. And they gave them 8 ounces a day of pomegranate juice, and nothing fancy. It's the pomegranate juice that you see in grocery stores. They used Palm Wonderful, that particular brand. And they were able to slow down the rise in the PSA or stabilize it, giving these men some significant quality of life. And then in one study with men who are awaiting radical prostatectomy, who had localized prostate cancer, giving them ground flaxseed at a specific dosage was shown to decrease the proliferation rate of the tumor cells while the men were awaiting surgery. So even in men that have cancer, some of these nutrients still play a role in helping to contain the cancer in a way that is a nice adjunct to standard medical treatment. The other thing I need to point out here is that when you're on a more plant-based diet, you're eating fewer high-fat animal foods. And we saw, dating back to the early studies in the 1980s and early 1990s, Edward Giovannucci, the health professionals follow-up study, showed us that men that consume more saturated fatty foods from animal products have a higher incidence or likelihood of developing prostate cancer that's quite significant. And further studies have shown that saturated fat and possibly trans fats stimulate prostate cells to divide at a faster rate, which increases the number of genetic mutations that will occur, increasing the risk of prostate cancer. But it was in 1996 that we first saw that study in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, published by Dr. Walter Willett of Harvard University, showing that 75% of all prostate cancer cases are avoidable through better diet and lifestyle practices. So that's a lot of cancer that could be prevented. And we don't have all the details yet, but certainly we see that a certain style of eating is beneficial. So of course not all men are going to become vegans. I'm not a vegan myself, but I think helping men understand that focusing more on foods that have been shown to decrease prostate cancer is quite prudent, along with reducing foods that have been shown to increase prostate cancer development and progression. So, this is important because prostate cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in our society. It accounts for 27% of all male cancers. And studies show that we really have much more control over the development of this disease than most men actually realize. So this is where I would encourage health professionals to develop an expertise in this area and to educate your patients and clients on this really important subject. I get a fair number of referrals each year from to see patients who have localized prostate cancer. Their PSA is rising very quickly, and doctors are not ready to do anything drastic yet, or the person's awaiting surgery. And using nutritional medicine on a routine basis and quite consistently, I'm often able to bring the PSA down, which would indicate that there's fewer prostate cancer cells available, or that the benign prostatic hyperplasia condition is being improved, using targeted nutritional medicine. And this also applies to men that have already had prostate cancer and their prostate has been removed with a radical prostatectomy, because even in those cases when they think they got all of the tumor mass, in 25 to 33% of cases, the cancer comes back within a 7-year period. Often some of those cancer cells actually escaped and are hiding somewhere else in the body, and then they can be reactivated and then cause bone metastasis and liver metastasis at a later date. So even in men that have had a radical prostatectomy, doing a nutritional medicine consultation for those men to teach them how to use the best evidence we have to help suppress any tumor cells that may be hiding somewhere in the body so they don't get reactivated. Anyway, I've included a link to the study abstract. I think you'll find it highly illuminating. So I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.